Hello folks, welcome back to another episode of the Shed End View podcast. This week we'll be looking at last Friday night's match against Dundella. We'll be looking forward to this Friday night's Irish Cup last 16 clash at home to Ards. We'll be looking at how the league has gone so far this season, talking about our new signings in the transfer window, talking about our documentary which has done really well, and we'll be announcing a special competition that we are following up on our 100 subscribers call last week. So we're there. So
it's an action-packed show.
Yeah, it sounds like we've got a. So you'll probably get bored 5 minutes in, but try not to. Try and stick with us. So we'll, as I said, we'll touch on the Dundella game first. I think you said to me just before we started, it was like a gritty or
an ugly win.
An ugly win, yeah. And I suppose it was in terms of the last 10 minutes. We were probably under the cosh a wee bit, and we probably played our part in that, and sort of dropping back a bit, but. I mean, I think probably it would be fair comment to say that we could and probably should have been out of sight at half time.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we looked comfortable enough in the first half, and we hit the crossbar twice in the space of 5 seconds here. And we had a few opportunities. Just a quick shout out for their goalkeeper was absolutely brilliant on the night. Pulled off probably 3 really good saves that were destined to be goals. And another night that's 4-0 at half time. As it turned out. It wasn't just that comfortable, but I said last week that I'm always nervous about playing Dundella. They're a very physical team, and sometimes we don't stand up to that, but I think we did that very well on Friday night. We played to our strengths, and what a moment of magic to win the game. As it turned out, the Dingo's through ball, which was absolutely perfect. When you see the highlights, he just saw that gap, puts it through, and Philly Donnelly, who hasn't been prolific in front of goal this season, it's safe to say, but took a lovely touch and then just hammered it home. So no complaints, absolutely brilliant. And after our home form, I think the worry was, can we see this game out? And maybe that kind of leaked into the last 10 minutes. Like you said, we kind of sat back a little bit and everybody was just screaming, get out, but we just had to see a game out at home, and we did. 3 points, and some of the results went our way.
Yeah, I think the key thing was we're coming into the Ballymallard game last week, and we'd been on an iffy sort of a run is probably the best way of putting it. We've won the last 2 games, we scored 3 goals and we haven't conceded, and we're now sitting clear again at the top. So I think now we'll probably said this about 3 times this season, but I think the boys now know what to do in terms of staying the rest of the season out with 12 league games. So it's in our hands. I think probably just touching on the goal there, and we've said this to Philly numerous times. I've said it after every game. Not prolific is probably the kindest way of putting it. He probably should have had about 15 goals this season, but he knows that himself. But it was a cracking finish. But just before Dingo's ball, it started from a throw-in. Stevie moaned to Dingo, back to Mona. Mona played it back to Boiler, and it was actually quite a clever pass because Mona was getting closed down. Boiler, a lot of times we can play the ball across the back or keep it or play it back to Stevie, but he made a forward pass. It was only a 10-15 yard forward pass, but it took a couple of other players out of it and allowed Dingo to turn the halfway line, and he waited until Philly was just enough space. As you said, perfect through ball, brilliant first touch, and I think the word for his finish is emphatic. And I saw on Instagram he ran over to his hairdresser to celebrate. So we were questioning why he didn't run behind the goals where most of the fans were congregated, but he ran over to his hairdresser. So obviously a cheeky fade before games obviously works for Philly.
I think the most impressive thing wasn't even the goal. It was when he gave the guy the nutmeg down here on the touchline. Did you see it? Yeah. He gave the guy a nutmeg and just absolutely sent him to the shops. Like, the guy came diving in with 2 feet and Philly just roasted him. So I got a message from him today. Are you any good at TikTok? Can you cut this down for me on TikTok? But fair play to him, what a goal, and it's good for him, I think, and good for his confidence coming into this last bit of the season to getting the score sheet properly this time.
Yeah, I mean, it was a big win, and especially in front of a big crowd. We've talked about this numerous times in the podcast, and it's probably been talked about well before podcasts were even a thing. Anytime, or well, more often than not, when we get big crowds down, we tend to not perform. And while don't get me wrong, it was far from the best performance of the season on Friday night. We ground out a win. We got a big 3 points. It'll encourage people to come back. We had all the kids down there thanks to your initiative in terms of getting people to design the poster. And hopefully those kids will come back and they'll see the good atmosphere. I mean, Oren Casey, who we'll talk about later, one of the new signings, was down here at the game on Friday night, and he said, in his post, the club's social media post when he signed, he says, was down on Friday night and the atmosphere was great. He said the place was buzzing, and I think he probably genuinely meant it, providing he actually said it. It wasn't a made-up quote, but that's what you want. You want people to come down. We had texts from players and stuff saying, fan support's great, and we want to keep that going. And it was great to see us actually perform, get a massive 3 points in the context of the season in front of a massive crowd.
Yeah, and I think it's always important to win, but at this stage of the season, it's literally just win it and next game, and that's just the way we looked at it. I think we mentioned last week that it's just 12 games or 13 games that we just need to keep winning, and we've won the first one. I think if we win 9 of our next 12, that's us. That should be the league. You should be champions. But I know it's okay saying that, but that's what it worked out. If we win 9 games, that should be it.
And just to point out, lads, Ali wants that to be the next 9. And he wants us to win 9 in a row. Well, we all do, but Ali, as we've seen, Ali's predictions are not necessarily realistic.
We always go on a run. Well, we have done in the past few seasons. True. Like we always find some run. So what a time if we can find it now to carry us home, and then I can get a T-shirt that says "We'll walk the league."
We'll definitely get those made at the end of the season if it happens. I mean, I suppose we can put the league stuff to bed now for a week or two. We're obviously building up the boys' right training at the moment. We're just talking on Monday night with another big Friday night fixture, which will definitely attract a big crowd. We're playing Ards, who we've had so many battles with over the years and this season as well. The last time we played them down here on a Friday night, we won 2-1. We came back, and it was one you did the mini documentary for, and it was huge. It was a big night. It was a big attendance. We performed that night. Obviously they're coming in. I think that was the top 2 at the time when we played them, and then when we played them away from home and drew 1 each, it was the top 2. They've had a really bad run, and subsequently saw their manager John Bailey step down and relieved of his duties, whatever way you want to put it, part ways, after the defeat to Queens on Saturday. So there's the cliche, I suppose, of a new manager bounce, and I know they don't have a new manager permanently, and they've got their director of football or academy director or something stepping in, which is fair play, because if he's obviously coming in and trying to make an impact, obviously is a big part of the club, so it's not somebody from the outside they're brought in initially even just to steady the ship. It's a weird one, because it's the same as a Warren Point game. You're playing what you would class as a rival, because the way Warren Point, where we were in the Premiership at the same time as Warren Point, we've been in the Premiership at the same time as Ards as well. We've always had battles with them, even from 20-30 years further down the line. Again, the same as the Warren Point game in the last round. We're like, obviously we want to win it. Obviously you want to beat a rival team, but if you don't, it's not the biggest deal in the world. But it'll be an interesting one to see sort of what team we go for, how it pans out. You don't know what way they're going to come into it. I see they've recalled one of their defenders who was on loan at Bangor today. So the manager, the interim manager, obviously has new ideas as to what he's thinking, or different ideas that maybe the previous manager wasn't thinking of. So you don't know what way they're going to come in for. It's probably a good game for Ards to come into, because they've nothing to lose. It's just okay. We don't have to worry about our league for a bit, and getting back in, and they're trying to make sure they stay in the top 6. So it's an interesting one. It's a big game. I mean, it's a massive opportunity for 2 championship clubs, for one of them to get into the quarterfinals of the Irish Cup. And when you get into the quarterfinals of the Irish Cup, and as we saw what happened with Warren Point and Ballinamallow a couple of years ago, Ballinamallow particularly, get into the cup final. So if the draw goes your way, you just don't know. It's
a massive dangling card, but it should have been Dundella originally that we were playing. I think I'm a bit more relieved that it is Ards, because we've talked about how difficult Dundella can be. Ards do play some football. The last time we played them, it was quite a rough game, but they play football, and I think that would suit us. Like, I'm not saying that's going to have any kind of say in this game, because we don't know how they're going to approach it, but I mean, for us going into that game, we know that Ards like to play football, we like to play football, so it should be a good match in that regard. I can't see it being like a real slobber knocker. I think it's going to be a decent enough game. It's saying that we'll probably get loads of red cards here.
Sorry, can you qualify? Slobber knocker?
I've never heard that.
No, I've never heard that before.
Oh, that's an old wrestling term, that one.
That's why I haven't heard it yet. 30-year-old man still likes wrestling, but go on ahead.
So I think it's going to be a good fight. Could I say that? Is that alright? I won't get slagged. But
you're keeping a bit in about the slobber knocker.
Oh, that's staying in. Yeah.
It sounds slightly perverted, but go on.
But I think it should be a good game. Ards have plenty to prove. Their season, as you said, has dropped off, but they're obviously, I don't think they're going to get up towards promotion now, but they'll have a big say in who does, and that will be their prerogative for the end of the season, is finish strongly. Whatever manager's coming in, they'll all have something to play for now, so it is interesting. For us to get to a quarter final will be a massive deal, but I think if you did a poll right now and asked 100 fans would they prefer a win here or a win at Derbyview the following Saturday, it'll always be Derbyview. So the cup is a free hit, and it's if we get there and we get into the quarter final, so be it. But I mean, I prefer 3 points in the cup, in the league. Sorry.
Yeah, if I was doing that poll, I would prefer a win against Derbyview on the Friday night, because the match is on the Friday night.
So it is, yeah.
Just in case,
it's going to be a pain, isn't it?
Yeah, just in case 8 o'clock in the following Friday
that's
night.
right. Yeah.
We do seem to like Friday night games, and we play better on the lights. And this one's going to be the same. I think it's going to be the same as the previous game. I mean, there's absolutely no intentions of, I think, even from a supporter's perspective, I can't speak for the players and the manager, but I'm sure they think the same. You can't be taking Ards lightly. It doesn't matter how poorly a run they've been on, and confidence is, I'm sure, is low. It's Ards. Ards are never a bad team.
Yeah.
Ards are always knocking around the same sort of level as us in terms of what league they're playing in, or in terms of the standard of football. So it's a tough one. I actually, just touching on what you said, it should have been Dundella, and obviously what's happened with the registration and stuff. I'm actually sort of happy it's not Dundella as well, for a different reason, because 2 weeks in a row, playing the same team 2 weeks in a row, they almost pulled something out of the bag against us on Friday night, and you sort of going, you're nearly rather going to a fresh game against a fresh team. I think Dundela and Niall Curry would probably be a bit wiser to us, if we played them again Friday night. But look, it's a big game. We want a big crowd down again. It could be huge for this club in this area, for the club to get into the quarter final, and then it's an open draw. You just don't know who you're going to get. So, but we obviously have to get past Ards first. But fingers crossed, obviously.
Hope so.
If we move on to just briefly sort of looking at the league itself, we're 8 points clear of Ballinamalard, and we were saying that before last week's podcast, that if we had lost to Ballinamalard, they would have been level with us. So we're 8 points clear of them. Loughgall obviously be game in hand and can close that gap to 5, but as we keep saying, it's in our hands, and that's all you have to really worry about. You just have to start keeping on winning your own games. Yeah,
that's definitely it, and I'm glad we are out of that pack. If we were brought into it would be a nervy time. I think pressure is now on the teams to try to get that playoff position and get into second place. For us, there is a pressure of being the leaders, but I don't think it's the same pressure as trying to hang on to a playoff position. So, second, third, fourth, I think are all level on points. I know Loughgall have a game in hand, and then in fifth place is 2 points behind that. So it is very tight. What a league this season! It's been amazing.
Just a couple of last things to touch on, because we're actually probably doing this for the first time with an audience. We've got the guest for part 2 is sitting there, and our goal scorer from Friday night is sitting there, and neither of the two of them will look up. They're just like typical footballers looking into their phones. But a couple of things just to finish off with. Transfer window, made 3 signings, brought in Lorcan Ford from Loughgall on a permanent deal, and we've signed Oran Smith on loan from Dungannon and Oran Casey on loan from Cliftonville. So it's a transfer window where we've only signed boys with Irish first names. So that's obviously, I don't know whether that was a planned thing. It's three young players, which sort of fits in the vast majority of our squad. I think Lorcan started every game since he's arrived. Has done okay, probably still settling in. Oran Smith has come on in every game he's been on, or he's been here since, and has competed, and he sort of actually I thought he made a big difference on Friday night, where he just sort of he got about the place and sort of maybe close things up a wee bit. Oran Casey, obviously highly rated at Cliftonville, so I've yet to see him, and he's only training for the first time tonight, so hopefully we'll see him very soon.
Yeah, you probably imagine he'd come in straight in for the cup, I'd say.
I'd say so. He'd probably, I would say. And there you go. You see, this is the benefit of having an audience. When one of your players says he's cup tied, so he'll not come in. So there you go. That's fair enough. I didn't know he played for Cliftonville in the Irish Cup, but there you go. So just one last thing then, well, a couple of last things. Obviously the documentary we released last week on the playoff from 2018, to be honest with you, it did, I think, much better than we expected.
Yeah.
I think we're sitting in around 2,000 views at the minute, which, when you consider the fan base we have, that's good. We got a lot of publicity from different people around the Irish League and further afield. So I'll leave it up to the main man behind it to just express your emotions.
Yeah, well, I don't know. I was just delighted the fact that it has got out there. I mean, we put a decent amount of effort into these podcasts every other week, and we do, and we get 200 to 300 views. But the fact that got 2,000 was a big thing. But I suppose everybody can relate to it, and we knew that fans of any team anywhere could relate to that. So I'm just glad that it's done well, and thanks for everybody for liking and sharing it. Which leads us into the next thing, because we said that would take us over 100 subscribers, and we broke it. I think we're at 117 now, the dizzy heights.
Yeah, so we said once we broke 100 subscribers on YouTube that we would do a competition. So we're true to our word. So what we're going to do, we'll have it up on our social media later on in the week. We're going to do a signed shirt, so of your choice. So it can be home away or third, and we'll get it signed by the players, and we get it presented to you by ourselves if you really want, Darren Mullen, the manager, and a player of your choice. But we'll leave that up to you whenever we pick out the winner. But it'll be a like and share competition, so on our social media channels you'll need to like the post and you'll need to share it and basically spread the word. But we'll announce that later this week, and then we'll tell you how you can win, what way we'll pick the winner, and then we'll sort it all out, and hopefully in a couple of weeks we'll have you presented with a nice new shirt signed by a couple of superstars sitting in the background. That wraps us up for part 1 of this week, and we will go quickly into part 2 with our special guest, and I know it's one you've all been waiting for. It's Crossmaglen's finest, James Teelan. See you soon.
See you in the quarter final.